Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. The Unintended Journey. Dana's head was spinning as she felt the ground beneath her give way. One moment she was in her new home, a sleek apartment with minimalist decor and the latest tech gadgets still in their boxes, and the next a dizzying sensation overtook her. The crisp white walls and unpacked belongings blurred into the rushing waters of an unknown river. "Grab my hand," she yelled, her voice steady despite the chaos swirling inside her. The boy, with fear in his eyes, clutched at her with a desperation that matched her own. Together they struggled against the current until they were both on the riverbank, panting and soaked. "Thank you, ma'am," the boy stammered, his voice revealing his youth. He couldn't have been more than 10 years old. Dana looked around, trying to make sense of the sprawling fields and the distant outline of a plantation house. The air was filled with the distant sound of labor. The earth beneath her feet was packed hard from countless footsteps. "Where am I?" she asked, more to herself than the boy. "You're on the Wayland plantation, ma'am. In Maryland," the boy replied, confusion creasing his brow at her odd question. Maryland? But that was impossible. She was just in California, wasn't she? Dana's mind raced as she tried to piece together the puzzle. The boy's name was Rufus, he said, and the year was 1815. A chill ran down her spine. This had to be a dream, a very vivid, unsettling dream. After the rescue, Dana reached into her pocket, finding a small, modern keychain flashlight, a stark anomaly in this 19th century world. As they walked towards the house, Rufus chattered about his father and the plantation. But Dana's thoughts were elsewhere. She was black, and this was a time when her skin color was a curse. Not just a feature. She needed to be careful, to tread lightly in this dangerous past that was all too real. The house loomed before them, its windows like watching eyes. Rufus's mother, a stern woman with sharp features, greeted them with suspicion. "Who are you?" she demanded, eyeing Dana's wet clothes and unfamiliar face. "I'm a friend," Dana lied smoothly, her heart pounding. "I helped Rufus. He was in the river." The woman's gaze softened slightly as she looked at her son. "Well, thank you for that. But we don't need any more help here. You should go." Dana nodded, her mind already planning her next move. She needed to find a way back. Back to Kevin, back to her time. But how? She thought of the life she had left behind. The unfinished novel on her bedside table, the half-written emails on her laptop, and the plans she had made with Kevin. They were supposed to grow old together, not centuries apart. As night fell, Dana found herself alone, the darkness of the 19th century closing in around her. She clutched the canvas bag she had somehow brought with her, its contents a meager comfort. She thought of Kevin, of the play they were supposed to see, and of the blanket she had left outside, now likely dew-covered and forgotten. A noise startled her, and she turned to see a young white man approaching. "You're not supposed to be here," he said, his voice cold. "I was just leaving," Dana replied, her voice calm despite the fear that gripped her. The man grabbed her arm, his grip painful. "You're a runaway, aren't you? I should take you to the patrollers." Dana's mind raced. She couldn't let this happen. "I'm not a runaway. I live here," she lied again, hoping he would believe her. But he didn't. The confrontation escalated, and Dana found herself fighting for her life, her survival instincts kicking in. She managed to break free, running into the night, the man's angry shouts fading behind her. She ran until she couldn't run anymore, until she collapsed under a tree, her breath ragged, her body aching. She was lost in time, in a world that was both alien and terrifying. But she was alive, and she was determined to find her way back, no matter what it took. The unintended journey had begun, and Dana knew it was only the first of many. But she also knew she wasn't alone. Kevin was out there somewhere, and together they would face whatever this strange past had in store for them. They had to survive, for their future, for their love, and for the hope that one day they would return home. Partners in time. Dana steadied herself against the rough bark of an oak tree, her breath coming in short gasps. The world around her spun wildly for a moment before settling into the familiar, yet always unsettling, landscape of 1815 Maryland. She could hear the distant sound of voices and the heavy thud of her own heart beating in her chest. "Are you all right?" Kevin's voice cut through the haze. He was right beside her, his hand gripping hers tightly. "Yeah," Dana replied, trying to sound more confident than she felt. They were back again, back to a time that was as dangerous as it was unpredictable. As they walked towards the main house, Dana felt the weight of the questions that had been haunting her. How could they navigate this world without losing themselves? Kevin squeezed her hand. "We'll figure this out together," he said firmly. Dana nodded, drawing strength from his resolve. They had become partners in time, bound together by circumstance and a shared determination to survive. Dana's eyes met those of a young man named Nigel, who had become a friend and confidant. His nod was subtle, but it spoke volumes. Rufus recounted his latest brush with danger, a fire in the barn that had nearly trapped him inside. Dana listened intently, knowing that each of these incidents was a piece of the puzzle they were trying to solve. Later, as night fell and the plantation settled into a tense quiet, Dana and Kevin sat on the porch, their conversation a whisper in the darkness. Dana knew they were playing a dangerous game, one that could cost them everything. But as they held each other in the moonlight, Dana felt a flicker of hope. Together they had faced the unimaginable. And so, as the stars blinked overhead, Dana and Kevin prepared for whatever the next day would bring, united in their journey through time. A tool of resistance. Dana stood in the dimly lit cabin, the air thick with the scent of earth and wood. Nigel, the young house servant, sat across from her, his eyes wide with a mix of fear and anticipation. The only sound was their quiet breathing and the distant call of a whippoorwill, signaling the early evening hour. "Remember, Nigel, these words are more than just marks on paper," Dana whispered, her finger hovering over the letters as Nigel leaned in, the sheet securely hidden within the folds of her dress. "They're the key to a world beyond these fields, beyond the Wayland's reach." Nigel nodded, his voice barely above a breath. "I understand, Miss Dana. But what if we get caught?" "We won't," Dana assured him, her voice steady despite the flicker of doubt that shadowed her thoughts just moments before their meeting. She had allowed herself a brief pause, a fleeting moment to weigh the gravity of their actions, the perilous path they tread. But the resolve in her heart steeled her once more. "You're smart and quick, you'll learn fast and no one will ever know." As they began, Dana taught him the alphabet, the shapes of the letters, and the sounds they made. Nigel's eagerness to learn made him a quick study, and soon he was piecing together simple words. "Good," Dana encouraged. "Now, try this one," she said, pointing to a new word. Nigel furrowed his brow, sounding out the letters. Free. Free. "Yes," Dana said, a small smile on her lips. "That's exactly what you'll be one day." A soft tap on the window, 3 short, 2 long, broke their concentration. It was their agreed signal, a coded rhythm mimicking the call of the whippoorwill. Kevin was outside, watching, vigilant. Dana quickly slid the paper into a hidden pocket sewn into her skirt as Nigel stood ready to return to his duties. "Thank you, Miss Dana," he said, his voice steady but his hands betraying a slight tremor. "I won't forget this." Dana watched him leave, her heart heavy with the weight of what they were doing. She knew the risks, but the hope in Nigel's eyes was worth every bit of fear. They were fighting back in the only way they could, with knowledge and a silent rebellion that could one day set them all free. It was a dangerous game, but one that Dana was determined to play. For Nigel, for all the slaves on the plantation, and for herself. She was a tool of resistance, and she would not be broken. The bond of survival. As Dana sat in the dimly lit corner of the cabin, her mind raced with plans to return to her own time. She had been piecing together the patterns of her travel, trying to discern a trigger or a sign that could give her control over her displacement. Her thoughts were interrupted by the arrival of a new character, a young boy named Eli, who stumbled upon the cabin while fleeing from a neighboring plantation. His presence brought a fresh perspective to Dana's predicament and a renewed sense of urgency to her plans. Eli's stories of the outside world and his innocent questions about Dana's strange attire and speech stirred something within her. She realized that her knowledge of the future could be a beacon of hope, not just for her, but for those like Eli who had never known a life without shackles. With this newfound resolve, Dana began to meticulously document her experiences, hoping to leave behind a guide for those who might follow in her time-traveling footsteps. As she wrote, Dana reflected on the lessons she had learned, the value of empathy, the strength found in unity, and the power of knowledge. These reflections were cut short by a sudden and intense headache, a familiar precursor to her time jumps. Dana braced herself, expecting to be whisked away, but instead she found herself still firmly rooted in the past. The pain subsided, leaving her with a chilling realization. The rules had changed, and her journey was far from over. The chapter ended with Dana clutching her makeshift journal, a sense of determination etched on her face. She knew that the path ahead was fraught with danger, but the thought of leaving Eli and the others to face their fates alone was unbearable. As night fell, a mysterious figure watched from the shadows, their intentions unknown, setting the stage for a confrontation that could alter the course of Dana's journey forever. Tensions rising. In the dimly lit kitchen, Dana's hands trembled as she clutched a letter, a plea for help addressed to a trusted contact who could aid Alice, a woman reduced to slavery after being born free. Sarah, the housemaid, cautioned Dana against staying, but Dana was resolute. She had become Alice's protector, a role thrust upon her since her arrival from the future into this brutal past. The door flew open and Rufus barged in, demanding Alice's whereabouts. Dana confronted him, declaring that Alice wasn't there and that his search was futile. As Rufus's anger flared, Dana stood her ground, refusing to be intimidated or to betray Alice's location. The tension escalated until Kevin's sudden entrance. He faced Rufus, his stance protective over Dana. The confrontation shifted as Rufus, struck by a sense of betrayal, deflated under the weight of Dana's words. He left the kitchen, leaving Dana and Kevin to share a moment of quiet resolve, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, united in their determination to protect Alice. A fateful confrontation. Dana's pulse quickened as she leaned on the library's doorframe, Rufus's accusation still hanging in the air. "Rufus," she began, omitting her usual reassurances. "I'm here, that's all." His anger gave way to confusion, his eyes no longer searching for hidden threats, but settling on her with a plea for understanding. "Why, Dana? Why do all this?" Before she could answer, a subtle movement caught her eye. Carrie, the silent observer, was at the window, her fingers dancing with urgency. The message was clear: danger. Dana's mind raced, knowing the time for subtlety had passed. Approaching Rufus, she spoke with a sincerity that reached beyond their past. "It's not about sides, Rufus. It's about choices. Yours, mine, all of ours." The mask of the hardened overseer slipped, revealing the vulnerability of the boy beneath. "I don't want their fate," he murmured, a reference to the legacy he feared inheriting. The room's tension shifted, not with the intrusion of footsteps, but with the weight of unspoken truths. Kevin's presence was felt before he spoke, his solidarity with Dana unspoken but palpable. "We're here to build, not break," he said, his voice steady. Rufus's gaze flickered between them, his internal battle laid bare. Memories of his father's harshness clashed with visions of a different future. Can I be different?" he asked, the question directed more inward than to those before him. The standoff evolved into a moment of reckoning, each participant measuring the impact of their convictions. It was no longer a confrontation but a crossroads of conscience. With a weary nod, Rufus conceded, his voice a mere breath. "I need space to think." Dana and Kevin shared a look of quiet resolve. "We'll wait," Dana assured him. "Change isn't rushed." Exiting the library, Dana felt the stirrings of change. This encounter, though fraught with old fears, marked a new chapter in their shared journey towards a future where freedom was the collective goal. The break from bondage. Dana stood firm in the dimly lit library of the Wayland plantation. The air was thick with tension, a storm brewing in the silence between her and Rufus, the young master of the house. His eyes, usually so commanding, now flickered with uncertainty. "You can't keep me here, Rufus," Dana said. "I won't be a part of this horror anymore." "You think you can just leave? After everything?" Rufus's voice was a low growl, the veneer of civility cracking. "But that doesn't give you the right to own me. Or anyone else here," Dana asserted. A heavy silence fell, broken only by the distant sound of children playing outside, a stark contrast to the gravity of the library. "I'm not your property, Rufus. I never was. And I won't let you treat anyone here as if they're nothing but tools for your use." Rufus's face twisted with anger, then desperation. "Dana, please," he pleaded, the authority in his voice now replaced with a plea. "Don't make me be like him." He gestured vaguely towards the portrait of his father, a stern man who had ruled the plantation with an iron fist. Dana's gaze didn't waver. "You have a choice, Rufus. You always did. And I have to make mine, too." With those words, Dana walked towards the door, her steps a silent testament to her decision. Rufus watched, a man caught in his own turmoil. Freedom and reflection. As Dana stood in the clearing, the air thick with the scent of magnolias, she felt the weight of history pressing down on her. The mysterious figure from the previous chapter emerged from the shadows, revealing himself to be John Brown, the infamous abolitionist. His presence was an anachronism, a twist of time that neither Dana nor Kevin could have anticipated. Brown spoke fervently of a raid on Harper's Ferry, his words igniting a spark within the plantation slaves who listened from a distance. Dana's relationship with the slaves had grown. Her actions and words had sown the seeds of rebellion, and now, as they whispered amongst themselves, it was clear that a collective movement was stirring. They saw in Dana not just a woman of their time, but a symbol of hope, a beacon guiding them toward a future they dared to dream of. The tension between Dana and Kevin had escalated since their last time jump. Kevin's experiences in the past had changed him, his accent now tinged with the cadences of history. Their conversations were strained, the distance between them growing with each passing day. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Dana felt the familiar pull, the disorienting sensation of a time jump imminent. She reached out for Kevin, but he was too far away, his figure blurring as the world around her began to spin. The last thing she heard was the sound of the slaves murmuring, a chorus of voices rising in the twilight. And then, darkness. The chapter ended with Dana waking up in a new time, her surroundings unfamiliar, the consequences of her actions and the fate of those she left behind hanging in the balance. The cliffhanger left readers questioning, what significant event had triggered Dana's time jump, and what would she face next in her relentless pursuit of survival and change? The anticipation for the subsequent chapter was palpable, the narrative driving forward with unstoppable force.